Thanks for staying with us. Today, Monday, May 17, 2021, the Ministry of Health and Wellness received confirmation from the Ezra Long Laboratory of 16 new cases of COVID-19. These results are from a batch of 156 samples taken during the period May 14th to May 16th, 2021. These samples were processed on May 16th. All of these cases were seen at various community respiratory clinics where they were assessed and tested for COVID-19. In keeping with the COVID-19 testing protocol, these individuals were placed in home quarantine by healthcare practitioners while awaiting the return of their test results. Arrangements have since been made to place them into isolation. The contact tracing for these new cases is currently underway. Confirmation was also received today of the recovery of 22 individuals diagnosed with COVID-19. This brings the total number of active cases currently recorded in country to date to 234. Presently, all of the active cases are doing well. The new cases bring the total number of cases diagnosed in country to date to 4,858. Today, the Ministry of Health also reports one COVID-19 related death, bringing the total number of deaths in country to date to 77. Death number 77 is a 58-year-old male from the Castries district with underlying medical illnesses. The Ministry of Health expresses sympathy to the family and loved ones of the individual. COVAX, the international scheme to ensure equal access to coronavirus vaccines, is 140 million doses short because of India's continuing COVID crisis. The Serum Institute of India, the largest single supplier to the COVAX scheme, has made none of its planned shipments since exports were suspended in March. The UN Children's Agency UNICEF buys and distributes vaccines for COVAX. It is urging leaders of G7 nations and EU states to share their doses.
Well, the international scheme set up to ensure equal access to vaccines is currently 140 million doses short, and that's due to the continuing crisis in India. Now UNICEF is calling for the powerful G7 countries, the leaders of which will meet in the UK next month, to share their surplus of doses. Our global health correspondent Tulip Mazumda reports.
It's a global collaboration that's never been tried on this tight timescale before. The aim of the COVAX scheme is to ensure all people in all countries get equal access to vaccines to protect them against COVID-19. Some progress is being made, but doses remain vastly unevenly distributed. And now the pipeline providing vaccines to some of the world's poorest countries is being squeezed. As India continues its devastating battle against a raging outbreak, the country's Prime Minister has temporarily banned exports of COVID-19 vaccines so that all doses can be used in country. The Serum Institute of India was due to supply around half of the 2 billion vaccines for COVAX this year, but nothing's been shipped since March, leaving a shortfall of around 140 million doses, which is due to rise to 190 million by the end of June.
Unfortunately, we're in a situation where we just don't know when the next set of doses will materialize. Our hope is things will get back on track, but of course the situation in India is uncertain itself.
And how much of a concern is that?
It's certainly a huge concern, and that's why we are calling on higher income countries that have access to doses to start sharing those doses now.
But countries are not being forthcoming with donating doses. Data commissioned by UNICEF suggests that the rich G7 nations, as well as the EU, could make a big dent in the vaccine deficit in poorer countries by donating 20% of their supplies in June, July and August. This would free up around 153 million doses. So far, France is the only country to have already shipped vaccines in view of the crisis in India, pledging 500,000 doses by mid-June. Nations including Rwanda, Senegal and here in Ghana are using up some of their last remaining doses.
It's very important that the global promise of solidarity for those countries that have enough vaccines to distribute and share those doses, because unless we stop the transmission everywhere, it will be very difficult to end this pandemic, even in places where people have been completed vaccinated.
New deals with different vaccine suppliers and manufacturers are also underway to try and get the COVAX scheme back on track. But right now, there's a gaping hole in supplies, which is threatening the global plan to end this pandemic. Tulip Mazumdar, BBC News.
St. Lucia is advancing efforts to have a home cruise port in Vieux-Fort. The island's Prime Minister Alan Chastanet gave an update to the nation on Saturday following his trip to Miami with industry players. A home port for cruise vessels is still on the cards for St. Lucia. Sadly, just after signing the agreement between Carnival Cruise Line and Royal Caribbean, the industry came to a screeching halt due to COVID-19. More than a year later, cruise lines are slowly charting the waters again, bringing hope for a revival of St. Lucia's home port plans. Prime Minister Alan Chastanet says that the players involved are just as excited now as they were before COVID to advance the project.
The good thing is that the port is a critical strategic asset that's not only beneficial to St. Lucia, but also significantly beneficial to the cruise industry. And so therefore, COVID has really given it even a stronger level of endorsement for its need. Barbados is a great home port. Martinique, Guadeloupe, and even Antigua does some home porting as well. But the size of the new ships that are coming in certainly would not allow any one port by itself to be a home port. And so bringing St. Lucia into the fray, and particularly now that we have the new international airport coming in. And I think that this is really a good opportunity, hopefully, for St. Lucians to understand the strategy that their government has developed.
According to Chastanet, the industry has been facing financial challenges, as well as being satisfied that sufficient tours can be provided from Vieux-Fort.
Not all of the passengers getting on the ship would be coming on from St. Lucia. So there would be other passengers who arrive on that same ship and would be going on an excursion for the day. And so we've been working very closely with them to give them the assurance, one, that Soufrière is actually closer to Vieux-Fort, substantially closer to Vieux-Fort than Castries is. So it means that there's extra time that persons can stay in Soufrière. And what are some of the new tours that we're doing in the Soufrière area. The second one is the opportunity for new tours between Vieux-Fort and Soufrière, as well as between Vieux-Fort and Dennery.
Further announcements are expected to be made in June on the advancement of the home port. On Friday, May 14th, 2021, the Royal St. Lucia Police Force Welfare Association, along with the Office of the Commissioner of Police, visited the police in St. Vincent and the Grenadines. During the visit, a financial contribution along with water and other supplies was provided to St. Vincent and the Grenadines Police Welfare Association from the St. Lucian contingent. The donation was made possible through contributions made by police officers in St. Lucia who wished to provide support to affected members of the sister island. The contingent also visited with local officers from the Special Services Unit who are currently posted in St. Vincent. They remain in good spirits and are committed to continuing to support the law enforcement efforts therein. The Police Marine Unit subsequently made a donation of supplies to the St. Vincent Coast Guard. The Royal St. Lucia Police Force will continue to render any assistance possible during this time to St. Vincent and encourages anyone able to make contributions to do so through Nemo St. Lucia. And things are looking grim for St. Lucia as it seeks to take part in the Tokyo Olympic Games this summer. The Olympic Games will be celebrated from the 23rd of July to the 8th of August 2021 in Tokyo, Japan. St. Lucia has been represented at the Olympic level most frequently by track and field athletes. Terry Finister is a sports journalist who says that currently St. Lucia has no qualifiers.
We have three leading lights, Laverne Spencer and Janelle Shaper, both of whom are Olympians. And of course, the young Julian Alfred in the sprints, who's reset every St. Lucia national record for the sprints. Unfortunately, all three of them are on the shelf. Janelle Shaper being injured, and she's actually in need of surgery. She's going to be out for the next 3 months, so she's absolutely out of Tokyo 2020. We haven't seen Julian Alfred in competition since February of this year. year when she sustained a hamstring injury. And Laverne Spencer, although she may be back sometime this month, we're being told, she hasn't been out of action since February with a calf injury as well.
Less than 3 months out, the Olympic Games is being marred by Japan being placed under a state of emergency. However, test events have already taken place in Tokyo.
Plans are pressing ahead for the Olympics. We've seen on a smaller scale the Carifta Games 2021 being cancelled, and the personal and the wider toll that has taken on Bermuda coming out over the last week. And certainly the kind of expense that the government of Tokyo, that the Tokyo Olympic Committee and that the International Olympic Committee actually would have put into getting ready for Tokyo 2020 is not going to go to waste. At this stage, it's going to take something really cataclysmic for them to actually call off Tokyo 2020.
And that was sports journalist Terry Finnis there. On May 16th, the St. Lucia Civil Service Association celebrated 70 years as a bargaining body and voice for civil servants in St. Lucia. The president of the CSA addressed concerns that the CSA has not always remained true to the vision of the association. He says, as the CSA celebrates 210, it has done what it was supposed to, and its legacy will definitely continue.
Trade unions are membership-based organizations with the main aim to protect and advance the interests of its members in the workplace. One of St. Lucia's oldest trade unions, the St. Lucia Civil Service Association, CSA, on May 16th celebrated 70 years in existence. And though the association has made some stellar strides over the years, it has not been devoid of critique from members and the public alike. To this day, some of the biggest critics of the union are that the union is becoming more and more politically inclined, and the trajectory of focus of the organization is no longer in line with what it was originally formed for. The president of the CSA, Cyprian Montrop, has dispelled such notions and says the history of the CSA must be understood when such comments are being made.
St. Lucia was governed by the UK before. We were not independent. The trade union movement came in and fought for many benefits, for many rights within those periods of the 40s leading into 1970. And so a lot of persons would have gained experience, exposure in that kind of environment, which led them to going into active politics. Because once you are in CSA, you are in fact in politics. It's just that you are not in the politics for governing a country, but you're in the politics for governing the working rights and benefits of workers. So I think, the whole notion of persons coming from trade unions is something that we should really embrace. The issue is, these individuals continue to fight for the benefit and right of workers.
He says the struggles of workers presently definitely differ from that of workers 70 years ago. However, the mission and vision of the CSA remain the same. As such, he says, the theme for its 70th anniversary, building on our 70-year legacy and ensuring our survival in a changing world of work, is very fitting.
We are reflecting on our past. The CSA's motto has been optimum dare, optimum expecta. Do your best, expect your best. We believe we have lived up to that. I mean, over the years, we have had issues internally, but that has not deterred us from achieving our mandate. The CSA, for the better part of its life, have always lived up to expectation. Like I said, albeit there are a few glitches. Like in any relationship, you would find little ups and downs, but that has not deterred us from growing our organization.
The CSA's 70th anniversary will be commemorated with 70 days of activities. Reporting for Hot 7 News, I am Genevieve Bonjan.
According to a World Health Organization report, long working hours are killing hundreds of thousands of people a year, according to the World Health Organization. The first global study of its kind showed 745,000 people died in 2016 from stroke and heart disease due to long hours. The report found that people living in Southeast Asia and the Western Pacific region were the most affected. The WHO also said the trend may worsen due to the coronavirus pandemic. The research found that working 55 hours or more a week was associated with a 35% higher risk of stroke and a 17% higher risk of dying from heart disease compared with a working week of 35 to 40 hours. The study conducted with the International Labour Organization, the ILO, also showed almost 3/4 of those that died as a result of working long hours were middle-aged or older men. While the WHO study did not cover the period of the pandemic, WHO officials said that the recent jump in remote working and the economic slowdown may have increased the risks associated with long working hours. The researchers said that there were two ways that long working hours led to poor health outcomes. Firstly, through direct physiological responses to stress, and secondly, because longer hours meant workers were more likely to adopt health-harming behaviors such as tobacco and alcohol use, less sleep and exercise, and an unhealthy diet. And you're watching the Hot 7 Nightly News. Do stay with us. There's more after the break.